this country is at war with Germany.
We had to do a job, and we did the job, and that was it.
The men had to go and fight, and the women had to take their place.
Soldiers, sailors, and airmen of the Allied Expeditionary Force, you are about to embark upon the Great Crusade.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Foxhole Chat. Joining us this week in the Foxhole is Ben from the YouTube channel Walking for History. Ben has a passion for World War II history, particularly during the German side of the war, as that part of the war often gets overlooked. He explores German war cemeteries and significant historical landmarks within Germany. So yeah, thanks for joining us, Ben. We're super excited for you to join us on the podcast.
Hey, glad to be here. Thanks for the invite.
So so you're a fellow YouTuber. So how did that kind of come about? What made you start a YouTube channel?
It kind of happened randomly, actually. I've always been passionate about history and wanted to I always talk to my wife about it and stuff, or my friends. And my wife's always like, well, why don't you come up with a channel to teach, tell people about it? And I always kind of laughed it off. And then last year in January of, I think it was in 2025, I was on a walk and I was like, you know what, I'm going to do it. And I just came up with it. And that's where I also came up with the name, because I was currently on a walk. So I was like, I'm just going to call it Walking for History. Created the channel. And then within a couple of days, I went to the first, I think my first video was the German War Cemetery in Regensburg. I had no idea what I was doing. Just, I didn't have the nice camera that I have now. I was with the selfie stick with my my iPhone, and the footage is so shaky and stuff. I can't look back at that video because I'm just like, oh my gosh, what was I doing? But yeah, that's how it started. And with the whole German aspect, it's I'm half German, so my grandma is German, and her brothers and her dad fought in World War II, and 3 of them were drafted into the service. And only her father and 1 brother came home. And it's really unique by her dad because he was in both World Wars, so he saw a lot of stuff. Unfortunately, I never had the chance to talk to him because he died before I was born. But what the interest came was my grandma never knew what happened with her 2 brothers. There was a death card, but she was young. They lost it. So during COVID, I actually started doing the research for one of her brothers, and was able to find out that he died shortly after a market garden, fighting near Helmand. It was a German counterattack in a weak point of the American line, and they were reinforced by the British. And then her other brother, who was, I think, either a crew member or a pilot for one of those seaplanes. I have no idea where he is. I know he just fell in the east. I've been trying to find out for him as well. But what's unique about him is he brought back a whole box of photographs and stuff. Just these little cards from just random everyday life as a German soldier that you normally wouldn't see. Mm-hmm. And that's what got my whole interest in researching and stuff on that topic. I mean, I do obviously other stuff than just the German perspective, but yeah, for example, when I was in Luxembourg recently, I did the American cemetery as well. I covered a lot of those Band of Brothers stories. That was really a unique experience. I think I was telling you about that actually on the phone when we talked previously about Julian, because his death, his headstone reads the 1st of January 1945, but he died on the 21st of December by most accounts on that patrol. So it's which one is correct? Stuff like that. I don't know. I always try to focus on the humanity aspect of history instead of the overall pictures, because I think that's how we understand it better, how we humans, the generations before us, lived through it.
So is that how you got your interest into the Second World War, through family connections?
I wouldn't say strictly through that. My first major, everyone has an entrance point to history. For me, it was actually the American Civil War. I can't tell you why. I was I don't know, I think 8 or 9. I saw, I think it was either Gettysburg or Masters of Generals or something running on TV. I just became fascinated with it. And I remember by the time I was in the 4th grade, we just started covering the Civil War, and I knew everything about it. And I was so excited to tell all my fellow classmates about it. And they're kind of just sit down, you nerd. but that was my interest point. And then obviously, Second World War is a massive topic. So you learn a lot about it. But Fun fact, I actually didn't really care as much about the Second World War until later on. I was more interested in the First World War, to be honest with you.
Oh wow, wow.
And
Okay, how come? What really grips you about the First World War?
well, I'm under the strong opinion, obviously there wouldn't be a Second World War had it not been for the first. And I feel like a lot of the impacts that the First World War had, especially if you're looking on the European theater of it, developed into the Second World War. So like, like in college, I remember writing an essay making the argument that strictly from the German perspective, you can argue that it's a 30 years war and not just two separate wars because of the political and social impacts that it had. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. And then, yeah, I mean, obviously that dives into the Second World War, and then the interest is obviously there as well. I mean, they're both fascinating topics, especially if you look at like the human impact that the Commonwealth soldiers had on their trenches, because like it's interesting to see the difference like between the German and the Commonwealth like trenches, because like the French and the British, they always were on the attack theory, so they never really like made their trenches as luxurious, I guess you could say, as like the Germans did with the whole underground systems and bunkers. But
Yeah.
I'm like referencing to like the Hindenburg Line later on. But I don't know, it's just fascinating. And then I don't know if you know Dan Carlin. Ever heard of that podcast?
Rings a bell, yeah.
If you haven't, check it out. Oh my God, he has the best World War I podcast I've ever heard. It's called Blueprint for Armageddon. And he also like really gets into a lot of the stories and references Ernst Junger's I think it's called Heart of Steel, that book from the First World War. But yeah, it's super fascinating. Sorry, I went off point there a little bit.
No. It's good. It's good, mate. Hey, we're the same as you. You get us talking about history, and we can't stop. So you kind of briefly mentioned there that you're half German, half American, and I kind of mentioned it in the intro. You do a lot of videos around the German side. So, what's your perspective of the Second World War as an American who lives in Germany?
Yeah, that's actually an interesting one. So obviously, I grew up in the States. You can hear in my accent, I don't sound German. Yeah, my dad was in the military. He met my mom out here when he was in the 80s. That whole traditional love German American story. And so I grew up, basically the same education that you would get in America over the Second World War. Not going to go into details, but based off the textbooks I wrote, we won it and no one else, that kind of perspective. Not really, but I mean, there's a lot. There's like this much about what we did, and then like this much about what you guys did.
Yeah.
And it isn't. Well, and this is like normal, K through 12. It isn't until you get into college when you start really getting into depth about, at least from my experience, until you get to depth about like what the British side did, what the Russians did, the campaigns in North Africa, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, so I have that perspective, and then when I come here, it's like it was just really unique to see the difference, because like it isn't glorified at all. But in every single town, you'll see like these war memorials. Sometimes they have like the names of different, like everyone who served and fell. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's just, like a lot of times you'll see the word like to the victims of the world wars, which is interesting because if you see like other memorials in like for the Franco-Prussian War, because they're around as well, it's more glorified in, the victory terms. And then you look at like First and Second World War, and that terminology really changes. It's just fascinating to see that like how Germany has this big like aspect of how they remember it without glorifying it, if that makes sense. And like I don't know, have you ever been to a German war cemetery ever? I know there's one in the UK.
No, I haven't personally, no.
Yeah, I've been to a few. So I've done the one in the UK, a few in France and Belgium. So I've done a fair few of them.
And Katie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you walk in there, you'll notice something different, and it's that instant somber feeling, like, and it's just crazy because you'll walk into them and you're struck by like the rows and rows of crosses. What's just like you are in Commonwealth or American cemeteries, but the unique thing about the German ones is when you start looking at them, you realize there's 3 to 4 names on one side, and then there's the other side of the cross. You'll notice the difference. Like it's crazy. And then you'll always have like a section of mass graves, because like a lot of the German war dead aren't like it's known that they're there, but like they don't they don't exactly have the cross for them. And that's exactly how it's supposed to be though by design, because like the German Volksbund, the the German War Graves Commission. That's how they wanted. They wanted to like respect the dead without glorifying what it was. You know what I mean? Like, and that's pretty interesting, I think. But yeah, what I was saying is my first experience with the German War Cemetery was that first video. I went there obviously before I did the video. It was also during COVID, and I walked in there and like, you know, I was kind of like, you know, I live near this town. Why do I not know this place exists? Kind of deal. And it was kind of a saddish feeling, if that makes sense. Like you just feel sorry for all those like young 18-year-olds who died. Because if you look at those crosses, most of the time they're 16, 17, 18, young 20s. It's, I don't know, it's depressing. Then being like, you know, like I'm former military myself, so it's like I know, you know, how much it sucks sometimes to be in situations and you don't even know what's going on. So that's where the whole interest came to cover the German cemeteries, just because like I feel the stories, the human stories, should be understood and like talked about because it expands our historical understanding about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head there, because I think a lot of the times, I can't remember if I said it on here before, but you know, we can get caught up a lot in, you know, the battles and, you know, oh, well, Spitfire's cool and they are, but then
They
you
are
know,
cool, yeah.
but then you kind of you read a lot when you read a lot of the first-hand accounts and stuff like that from books, and you go to places like the cemeteries, whether it be Commonwealth, American or German, you get that really somber feeling of, okay, this is the real price of war. And there's so many like lives here that, you know, people didn't get to have children, they didn't get to get married, they didn't get to go on holiday. And yeah, I think sad is definitely the right word, because I've started to think sometimes that it's good that people go and visit them for historical reasons, or you know, because they're interested in it, but also like the people who are in these cemeteries, like they might not have any living relatives, so do any of them get visited, you know? So that's something that I've been going over in my head that gets me sometimes. I'm like, you know, it's a shame that we can't know and understand everyone's story, and that everyone's story gets shared, that you know, some of them get lumped in together with just the units, you know, and what they got up to. So I think it's a really, really interesting portion that you cover. And I think your videos are amazing. I saw a comment on one of your
Appreciate
videos.
that.
No worries, mate. No worries.
Yours
I
are good
saw
too,
it.
man.
Oh, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Yeah, I saw someone comment on one of your videos saying that like you're criminally underrated. Um, and I think I think that's definitely true. Because there's some real, you know, there's loads of other YouTube channels out there covering all sorts of topics, but I think I'm not just saying that because I'm involved in this hobby, but I think if more people were switched on and interested, and took even just a 1% interest in history, you know, their lives would be a little bit better. They might be a bit more appreciative of, you know, modern day life and that sort of thing. So yeah, keep up the good work is what I say.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, you too, as well. Yeah, I mean, YouTube is its own beast kind of thing. I mean, you know how that is. You can put in like hours of effort and get like no views because your packaging was wrong or whatever. And I think like you mentioned, history is definitely a large niche. There's hundreds of great like history channels out there. I mean, off my top of my head, I can think of like World War II Wayfinder, obviously History Underground, JD, Sandra VK History, stuff like that. Those guys are History in Your Hand, for example. Like they make really good content, um, and they're established. So obviously people are gonna watch their stuff first. But you know, I think I told you on the phone. Like Sandra told me once that, you know, don't even look at views because you know you're doing this for passion, and even if one person learns something from you, or you're able to like share some like one person's story, it's amazing. I want to backtrack really quick because you were talking about the important work of remembering stories.
Mm.
When I was in the Commonwealth graves at Dürrenbach, which just a little context is where a lot of the pilots and aircrew that were shot down over southern Germany and Austria are buried. The groundskeeper, I talked to him when I went there, and he's like, you know, he said something along the lines like, you know, he wished he could have like a beer with these guys because he knows their stories. And you know, a lot of the graves that they would have had back home will eventually get replaced. That's just how it is. But these guys will be honored and remembered forever. And then he told me the story, and I covered the story of Adrian Warburton. So I think I'm pronouncing that right. Sorry, I never pronounce British names well.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. I'd be the
You
same
know,
with some American ones probably.
Worcester sauce and all that. Um, but he was telling me like his plane was he crashed and nobody knew where he was for like the longest time. I think it was in the early 2000s where they discovered the wreckage, and through American DNA testing or something, they were able to establish who he was. And because of that, he has a grave now and he has a marker. And I think, if I'm not wrong, he's the last person to be buried at the Commonwealth Cemetery, and it was attended by either his wife or his daughter, I think. I don't remember. It's been a couple months since he told me the story, but I just think that kind of is fascinating because that is like ongoing work. I know the German Volksbund, for example, it was last year or the year before they were able to identify a British soldier who was laying in a German grave, and so they were able to correct that and put him into or give him the proper headstone. So that kind of work is still ongoing, and I think that's fantastic. Like there's a whole network of historians and passionate people who are doing what they can to
Mm.
make sure that like their memories aren't forgotten.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that kind of reminded me, there was a program, I don't know if you saw it, Katie, and I don't know if you'd be able to get access to it, Ben, but a guy called Guy Martin, in this country, he was a motorbike racer, and then he kind of transitioned into like doing TV. He did a program maybe 2 years ago now, covering they were digging up a Lancaster bomber that went down in the IJsselmeer in the Netherlands,
Hmm.
and it was kind of covering the Dutch's perspective of why they still do it, because this was 80 years since this plane went down, and they have a similar thing where they dig up the remains, and then they're very careful of going through it and identifying it, because they obviously, them being occupied, they still feel to this day, 80 years on, that they have like a debt to pay to these and soldiers, whoever, who paid the ultimate sacrifice to give them their freedom. And it's a really good, interesting story, and a really good documentary, because it kind of covers, how the Lancaster bomber went down, but then also covers the human side of it, of what the men were like, and it talks to some of their relatives as well. So yeah, absolutely, yeah. The more people that do kind of stuff like that is really good and really really heartwarming, I think is the right word.
It is, and it's really important to like remember like and try to figure out like individuals from each side of it. Um, I think that's awesome that people are still continuing the work 80 plus years later. Um, and even like 100 years later, like because it's still being done for like World War I veterans as well, because you're still to this day finding remains in different fields. I don't know if like you've been to France or anything or seen the old Western Front. For me, I've only seen parts of Verdun, but what really stuck out is like you see a random farm and there's just a bunker in the middle, or not farm, but like a field, and there's just like a bunker in the middle, like completely abandoned. But you're like, it just really, it's insane.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but I have a question for you then.
Oh, okay, go on.
So, what motivated you to start your history channel? And what motivated you
Uh,
both to start the podcast?
Go okay. I'll let you go first.
So yeah, during COVID, I wanted something to switch off because I was working all hours. I worked all the way through COVID. Wanted something to switch off from. So I thought history's always been there for me. So I thought that was the best way for me to switch off from work. And it just sort of grew and escalated from there, really.
That's cool.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same. History's always been there for me as well in the background, and then it was kind of similar to your story, Ben. Actually, just like I was thinking about it for a while, and I was just like, I should just do it. Like, what's to stop me, sort of thing. If it's something I enjoy, and I knew I remember my first video, and it's down by like the coast near where I live, and again, just using my phone. No microphone either, so I'm just relying on the phone's microphone. Um, I just wanted to, you know, do something that I enjoy and that I can put my time and energy into, and kind of give something back to the people and keep the stories alive. And then the podcast, it literally just came from Instagram, right, Katie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we wanted to do something like collaborate together, but he's in North Wales, I'm in the Midlands, so logistically that was going to be difficult. So I said, well, let's do a video together. So it's like, right, okay, how are we going to do this? So we tried to link my area with Josh's area. Couldn't find a link. So like, okay, this is proving slightly more difficult than originally planned. So a few weeks passed, and Josh messaged me. He's like, I've had this idea for a video, like a Q&A between us. Maybe it could be a regular thing. So, well, I've had this idea of doing a podcast for a couple of years, but I want to do it with someone rather than just do it on my own. And within a week, we'd agreed to do it, created the socials, created a logo, and announced it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because me and my friends, we've also been talking about doing a little podcasting together, but our problem is we just never can find our schedules that work.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's definitely cool because it gives you like, you guys both know from making videos, like you're centered on that topic. And I think like the talking like this gives you the opportunity to just put so much more context into things like that. But yeah, I mean, that's also what I realized when I started like this whole thing is like how much work is behind it. Good, I already knew how to video edit it because also in COVID I started a gaming channel because we had
Cool.
a whole Discord community thing going on, you know, as you did back then. Can't believe it's been 6 years.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, in March would be the first lockdowns. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But yeah, I made like a gaming channel. It was called More on Militia. It's still there, but I haven't touched anything with it. And that was just the name of our Discord because we were just dudes having fun. And so that's how I learned how to like kind of video edit it. So I knew that part already. But like there's a whole difference between you know, using gaming clips and rendering and then actual footage. Like I know I struggled really bad with that at first. Like my first video I had to render it like 8 times because I didn't know like what, you know, frame rate I should put it in and all that stuff to make a real picture look live. And it wasn't until I got the camera that I have now, which you should definitely look into, Josh. The Osmo Pocket 3. It's
yeah.
it's perfect because it has like the facial tracking. I'm using it right now, you know.
That's cool.
And
cool.
yeah, it has the autofocus and stuff, and it makes it like so much easier. But yeah, then there's like the whole editing. Then there's like finding the right music, even though the music is such a background part. Like, you know, I'll spend hours, you know, like on Epic Sound or whatever, just playing different tracks. And then finally you get to it and then you're like, awesome. And then, you know, just small things like when I'm talking about a person, like, you know, getting the pictures of their awards transparent on the screen. And like, I know it's a World War II piece, but I don't like, you know, I censor out the swastika a lot of times just because it doesn't need to be there. And YouTube, you know, I mean, I understand it's a historical piece. I have got hit on that in the comments before, but, you know, like I'd rather my video not get buried by YouTube because there's a historical thing there and you see it happen to other channels. So yeah, I edit out when I can. So there's like that'll work. And then, you know, and by the time you finally get the video done, then you got to work on the worst part, in my opinion, is the title and the thumbnail.
Yeah.
Because like that's the part you don't really want to care about.
No.
And like I think if you have like once your channel is grown, I think you're always gonna have that like that base of the viewership that's gonna click on anything you post. But like, you know, I think your videos and my videos right now are mainly traffic through the browse feature, so like it needs to pop out. But at the same point, you know, that's where I feel like a lot of other channels who talk about, I don't know, random blah blah, not history stuff, but you know, just whatever, they can make these whole poppy like, wow, click here thing.
Yeah.
How are you going to do that on a historical piece without losing respect? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
Like I don't want to stand over a German like cross and be like, click here, you know?
It's I suppose it's that fine line, isn't it, between, especially when you know you're covering the German side of it, of you want to be respectful, but yeah, you don't want to stray into you know, like you say, getting, you know, just buried in the algorithm because YouTube doesn't want to promote it because you talk about, you know, the German leader, you know, or whatever, and use their symbols. So yeah, it's a tricky old business.
Well, it's just controversy that like I don't want to really get into. Plus, being in Germany, there's a little extra sensitivity about it. Like I said, I just take it out when it's possible. Like if it's like an award or something. Like if it's like the smaller awards, I'll leave it. But like, you know, if you're showing the German cross, the thing is basically a giant circle with that in the middle.
Yeah.
There's 1950 versions of it that they you know, that they made after for the veterans could wear that are denazified.
Oh right.
Yeah, top of my head, I think it's 1957. Anyway, they came out with like versions of the Iron Cross, the German Cross, all those awards for the veterans can still wear them without the freaking Hakenkreuz thing on there, swastika.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like that's what I try to show like on the videos and stuff. I mean, obviously if it's like a video, because like if you watch, you know how like in my videos I'll like blend in a lot of historical footage sometimes. That's all through the. I can send you the link by the way. It's the
Yeah.
American National Archives.
Oh,
And it's
wow.
awesome because it's all free to use. There's always at the bottom restrictions, like, and you just select what it is. And a lot of it is under the Fair to Use Act or whatever, meaning you can use it as long as it's serving a purpose. And obviously, you can't edit like swastikas out of that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's the same way. Like, I've done it before, but I don't like to cover like SS stories. I've only done it twice. And one was in the Sandweiler Luxembourg German one, just because it was Himmler's architect or archaeologist, sorry. And I thought that added a little bit to the context of it. And the other one was just some private, but I try to avoid the stories if I can, just because, you know, there's that whole sensitivity behind the whole Waffen SS and SS stuff, and I'd rather just like talk about the human story of the Wehrmacht guys, unless it adds to the story.
Yeah.
As I get more, and it's also because I'm a little bit amateur at the level, I guess. Like once I get more comfortable talking about stuff, I might add some of those stories. But you know, why would I? Unless you know.
Yeah, I totally get that. I think there's like different levels to it, isn't there? Because I don't know, I don't know about you, Katie, but I still like, even if I'm in public, I still kind of like struggle like recording in public because you know you're like, oh, well, you know, you don't want people to walk past you and either like, you know, heckle you or like, oh, what's that loser doing? Like talking to his phone, you know what I mean?
Bro, I'll tell you what. I was doing that German War Memorial, and like a lot of them are in graveyards
Yeah.
next to the church, and I was filming, and German grandmas were like, "What is he doing?
What?
What is he doing?" And I was like so uncomfortable because I had like the camera there, and I didn't want to mess it up. But my tip for you is never like stop recording and redo it. Just keep doing it. Just keep talking because you can always edit that in.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
And the trick is when you're messing up, you can always blend in other like B shots to cover the fact that you messed up or you're reading something.
Ah, there we go. There we go.
That's the trick.
Nice
Don't
little
tell anyone.
tip. That one.
We can edit that out. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, researching Germans. That's what I want to talk about. So that's actually really hard. There is a list. It's called like the Denkmal Project. There's a list of soldiers who like they have their death cards and like you know what cemeteries they're buried at and stuff. Sometimes, a lot of times I'll use that or traces of war. But if if that information isn't available, it's really hard to get German like records because a lot of that stuff got destroyed during the war. So that's why like a lot of times, no matter how like hard you look, you're not gonna find records for this person. And like another part is like data privacy laws. Like a lot of times, unless you're a family member, you're not going to get them from the archives. And even if you do message the archives, it takes months. Like right now, I'm still in contact with the German archives about my grandma's brother, and that's been an ongoing story. So it's really difficult. I feel like when you're looking up like American service members, it's a lot easier. I don't know how it is from the British. I'm sure you have more experience with that, but yeah, it's just really difficult sometimes.
Do you think it's harder because of the side they fought on?
I don't think so necessarily. There normally is a question of why you want this. And I think if you can give yourself a logical answer, like you're using it for educational purposes or relatives or stuff, they're more likely to help you. But I think it's just a lot of like German records got destroyed. Like I know I went to the local archives where my grandma's brother was from, and like they had nothing from him, which I thought was weird. But apparently, like you know, they didn't keep those records until like after the war. So a lot of this stuff goes through the official channels, and the official channels like don't always have everything. That's part of it. There's also other sites like I think there's like a forum called Forum der Wehrmacht. It's a German speaking site where a lot of like individual like researchers and stuff have posted what they know about people and stuff, but it's always like hit and miss. And so the way I do it is when I go to Oh, sorry. There's also the German Volksbund who has a lot of information. So when I like do a cemetery, like right now, I'm working on the Munich one. That's probably gonna be one of my future videos once I'm finished posting all the Bastogne ones. So like one of the first things I'll do is like I'll try to find the background of the history or the cemetery first, like when it was established, et cetera, et cetera. And then a lot of times you'll see on traces of war. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that site. Very good site, by the way. There'll be sometimes connections of people who are buried there, and if there's people there with their pictures and medals, then my work's done. But that's often not the case. So, and then I'll also look at like the German Volksbund because a lot of times they'll have the same biographies and stuff for different individuals buried there as well with pictures. And then you take those two together, and then you just pick and choose which stories you want to cover. And normally I take the ones I find the most information about because like I like to tell like kind of what they did like from before the war until after if it's possible, because I mean like I could stand at any grave and look at like, okay, this guy is in the Ardennes or buried here in like Ricani by Foy near Bastogne, so he probably fought in the Ardennes, he died in this date, so this is probably what happened on that date. I could say that, but like that's not really doing research, that's more guessing. And I would hate that for me to like say something about somebody and then like their relative or something sees and goes, hey, that's not true. Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I try to be really careful with that. And then, yeah, I'm obviously double checking always the information I have. And like sometimes, I'll say something on the video and then I'll notice afterwards as it's wrong and I'll have to cut it out. Like that's what's going on with, I told you my Bastogne for the 101st Airborne Foxhole video. There's that whole thing with Julian. Like I think I said that he might have been wounded or didn't die on this day. I'm not sure about it yet, so I don't know how to want to word it.
Yeah.
So that's why I haven't posted that one yet.
I think at our level, like, we try our best, you double check and, you check your sources and stuff like that. But I think, compared to like, I don't mean this in any bad way, but like proper historians, like James Holland, Dan Snow, Al Murray, people like that, John McManus, they're going to know because they know so much about it, they'll be able to spot things, more easily and sooner than we will. And I think for the vast majority of the people that watch kind of like our stuff, they're kind of, and again, I don't mean this like disrespectfully, but they might not know as much as we do. That our channel might be an introduction or something like
No,
that.
actually,
So
what you're making is a great point, and I actually talked about this yesterday. A lot of times, like these individual researchers will know more than historians do on certain people because they're topics that historians overlook. So I think it's awesome to have both aspects of it. Sorry for the interruption.
No, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Yeah, because it takes both, and I think I've not really come across it yet. Well, apart from we had that one really long comment, didn't we, Katie, on one of our episodes,
Yeah.
where it's like the essay, and so I haven't really come across that. Well, you got this wrong, and you missed this bit out. I think with history, as long as you're trying your best, I think everyone should be given a degree of slack. Just you're not going to get everything right. You're not going to be perfect. That's we're only human at the end of the day.
Yeah, the problem with that is like I feel like I'm sometimes a perfectionist in that area. Like not perfectionist, but like I don't want to release something unless I'm happy with it. And like I really don't want to get somebody's story wrong because like I know the chances of it are very low. But like, what if somebody like that's somebody's great grandfather or something, and they don't know anything about them, and they learn about them from what I'm telling? And now imagine if that's all bull. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just like that's why I try to. Sorry, hold on, too much water. Whew. We got the bubbly water here in Germany, so sometimes you drink it too fast. Yeah, so like I would hate for someone to get the wrong side of the story. I know, like for example, that Julian Band of Brothers aspect. There's thousands of stories about them, and there's 1,000 videos about them. So like, chances are the video is probably not going to be very much watched just because there's so much content in that specific area. But yeah, like I don't release something unless I'm happy with it myself.
Absolutely.
But I get what you're saying. Like, there's definitely some leeway, and there's always the you can always correct yourself later.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's funny. You got some essays. I get those comments too, and they're always kind of funny.
Yeah,
not like
we were talking about it the other day, weren't we? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like sometimes you really appreciate the effort people take to write them, and it's like as the channel grows, you're getting so many comments. I try to respond to everyone, even if it's weeks later, but it's like, you just can't. And then like, sometimes people will post these essays, and some of them, like, you really want to respond to them because they put the effort into it. And then sometimes you give them the generic "thanks for watching, I really appreciate your engagement" stuff. But I mean, it's like, it's just what you got to do. And then sometimes you'll get essays of like outlandish things. Like I'm not even gonna say it because, but that go along the lines of, you're covering that topic, and then they want to talk about the Austrian painter or something, and you're just like, bro, not the place, not the place.
Yeah, I think,
Um,
it's tricky sometimes, isn't it? Because like you were saying before, we try our best to dance around certain topics and certain subjects, but then because of the anonymity of the internet, because we're putting our faces out there, we're putting our names out there, and we've all got full-time jobs, so you don't want to risk going down and talking about a certain topic that could risk anything else. Whereas other people, people in the comments who are, user 33456 or whatever,
yeah.
They feel like I can just say whatever I want because there's no consequences. But I think that's kind of doing a disservice to the topic, really, isn't it? Because we're all doing it for the same reason of because we're interested. You want to teach people, you want to keep it going, you don't want it to be forgotten, and comments like that can sour it sometimes. But I think you got to laugh about it. You just got to laugh it off and carry on. I think.
I always think, I don't know if you've had it yet, but like, how YouTube has that hidden comment section? It's like, do you really want to look at these? It's sometimes you look in there and you see people arguing with each other, and it gets really like a war zone almost, where it's almost like comical because you're just like, why are people so, I don't know. Humanity sometimes is mean to each other.
Yeah.
And we've seen obviously a history of that. But I don't know. It's just part of the YouTube grind, I guess. Like, I mean, if you follow JD on Instagram, you know what I'm talking about. He posts all the time the stupid comments he gets.
Yeah,
And
which is wild because he's on like his videos are so well done, and like he'll openly say like if he doesn't know much about a subject, he'll tell you he won't try and BS his way through it, sort of thing. So it's for him to get them as well as like smaller people like us, it's crazy.
Yeah, but it's part of the experience, I guess.
Yeah.
So what was the first, like, what's the biggest British war cemetery you've been to?
I'm gonna admit something really bad now. I've never been to a British cemetery yet.
Whoa, bro! Whoa!
I know,
Yeah.
How dare me, boo! I know, because when I went to
Well,
Normandy last year, I went to the American one, and I didn't have time to go to
quick
the
question.
British one.
When you're at the American one, can you walk between the crosses, or are they blocked off? Because I've seen videos where they are, and then the videos where they aren't.
It varies from time to time when you go. So I've been able to walk down like every single row. And then other times some of them have been blocked off, some of them haven't, and then other times all of them been blocked off. I think it
Why is that?
depends from what I've seen and heard. So it depends on the weather. So obviously the American cemeteries are absolutely immaculate to like the blade of grass to the centimeter. So they don't want the grass to be destroyed.
Yeah, but like in Luxembourg, I didn't see that at all, and it's just as bad as weather there as it would be in Normandy, you would think. Same one with the one that's near the Meuse Argonne. The I forget the name, but you know what I'm talking about, the American one there.
Yeah.
When I was there's nothing blocked off. That's why when I always see videos in Normandy, because like I eventually plan to make a video there. Eventually, when I make I've never been to Normandy, but I do.
Oh wow.
I know.
Yeah, you can't boo me. You can't boo me. God.
But yeah, that's always something I wonder. Like, should I even focus on making a video there if you can't go to the individual crosses? Like,
I'm hoping it'll get better because they're implementing something in 2027 where you've got to book a time slot to be able to go to the cemetery so they can manage the amount of people that go.
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
So they might open it up a bit more then. just so they know the grass isn't going to get trashed. And obviously, like the more popular graves, the grass is going to get worn out because there's some Roosevelts at the American one in Normandy. So the grass in front of those got completely trashed at one point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when I went last year, because I was like you, Ben, I thought, because you watch Saving Private Ryan and you see them, the people walk in and you see videos on YouTube. When I went, it was literally, it's just like a tiny red rope that's just like strung up. And I was like, I saw some people at the graves, but I think they were like relatives who, would went and they wanted to pay their respects. And they did the ceremony with the sand from the beach and putting that on the name,
Yeah.
and the flags. So I was like, I saw the red rope and I just saw a couple of people. So I was like, right, okay, don't want to, I just didn't want to get in trouble. So I was like, I'm not even going to risk it. Like I was perfectly happy as a first time visitor there, just walking on like the main paths, and stuff, because I got the idea from watching James Holland and Al Murray's video. I think it was when they went to the Netherlands, and they both kind of went off separately, found a grave, and they like read the name and they essentially spoke to the guy and said, I'm here in such and such a year, we won the war because of you, thank you. So I tried to do something similar when I was in Normandy, but obviously like where the rope is and where the grave is, I was there like trying to squint to see the
Can you hear
name.
me?
Yeah. And obviously like there was people around, so I didn't want to seem like some wacko crazy guy just talking to a grave. But I still did it because I wanted to do it because I really thought it was a nice idea. But yeah, that's weird that I didn't hear about that booking system. But
Yeah,
it kind of makes sense.
they were going to bring it into place this year, like this April, and decided they were going to wait and roll it out next year. So when it did roll out, there was no issues with it, and it just ran dead smooth
Hmm.
and everything. So they've postponed it a year. Because when we
Right.
went last year, we went to the cemetery. I did all the research about I want to see this grave, this grave, this grave. Did all the research, got there, and couldn't get to any of the graves that I'd researched because it was all roped off.
Oh,
So I was like, okay, that video's out the window then.
yeah, yeah.
So
I guess this is a point where you could ask the users for some engagement. If you know anything about that, leave it in the comments,
Yeah,
Tell us
yeah.
what.
yeah.
But I'm sure if you message them prior and say, "Hey, I'm a YouTuber. I want to make this and this video about so and so. Is there anything that we can do that I can actually see the graves? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe they'll work with you." So actually, that brings me to an interesting point, though, because did you know you have to pay to go see the foxholes in Bastogne?
I've heard about this now. Yes, I've
Yeah.
heard about
And
it.
I think it's the way they do it,
Mm,
because if you drive to the Bojac, there's nowhere where you can buy the ticket. You have to go to the Bastogne War Museum, buy a ticket
right.
for the museum, and that's included with the foxhole. So I guess if you do your research, it makes sense. But like, a lot of people who are just in the area driving through and they want to see that one thing, they're not going to go to the museum first.
Mm.
So, and it's like 20 something plus dollars or euros.
Yeah, it's not a
Uh,
cheap museum, and it's not, I don't think it's the best museum either. They had a fire a few years ago now, and they lost a lot of artifacts and stuff that was in the museum. So a lot of it now is information to read and a few pictures and stories, and not a lot to look at because they lost it all.
I didn't actually go into that museum when I was there just because of time. I purchased the ticket and went straight to the foxholes because I was right there like a couple of days before Christmas. So it was 1 week after the start of the battle, and there was a big celebration the week before. So I timed that off by 1 week, unfortunately, which really annoyed me because there were veterans there that
Mm.
they brought back. And it's probably going to be some of the last times.
Mm.
Sander, he was there and he told me about it. And thank God they didn't make the veterans pay to go in the Bojac, because that would have
Oh
been.
my God. Yeah. So what's it, how's it work? Like, is there like, I'm imagining like turnstiles
Yeah,
and they've just like put this big fence up. What's,
Exactly.
oh,
literally,
really?
yeah, literally, they've
That
fenced off a bit of public wood with some holes in it, and you've got got a turnstile to go in.
I don't
But
know if I took.
if you literally walk across the road,
Yeah.
is the same bit of wood without the fence. So there's literally just this one little bit of wood that's fenced off because it's Band of Brothers territory, but they're not the original foxholes because they've been dug out
I don't know if you
by
can see it. Like,
reenactors.
so there's a fence,
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
and like to the
Yeah.
left there, you have to scan the ticket to get in.
Ah.
And what Katie's saying, right across the street, there's a road, and that goes to the other bits of foxholes. And that's actually interesting because in that wood is where initially the Germans would have had their lines, and that's around, I don't know exact spot where, but it's around in that wood where that Julian died on that patrol. And I think that's also where Hubler shot himself with the Luger. But yeah, that's how it works. It's like, so you literally have to go to the museum, get a ticket, which okay, quick tip for any of the viewers, if you're going, if you just want to go to the Borjak, park your car, get the parking ticket, run in there, buy the ticket, and run immediately out and drive out, because there's like 15 or 20 minutes where it's free parking. Otherwise, you have to pay €7 for that as well, which thankfully I barely made that cut. And then you can go to the Borjak, and then but once you scan your ticket, I think that's it. So you can go in and look at it. Some fun facts, like Katie said, there's the road, like there's some of the foxholes, and you'll see like the T foxhole where the machine gunner was at. If you cross the street there, you can like see also some foxholes there and stuff, and remnants of the battle. And if you go behind, like, so here's like the parking lot, and there's like a pathway. If you go that way, you actually come to Dick Winter's command post.
Wow.
There's nothing to see there obviously anymore, but
No.
And then like, there's also the monument there, the 101st Airborne Monument. And then if you go down to the hill, you'll see where Foy is, which I actually thought was kind of, if you just know it from the series, Foy doesn't seem as far away as it really is. So when you're actually like standing there, you're kind of like, it's kind of far away, And obviously Easy Company didn't attack directly from there when they took Foy. They went around, I think, to the west and came out of the forest from there. But it's still like, it's crazy. And then when you drive through Foy, you see, you can actually go down the road where the German sniper was that shot Kenneth Webb, for example.
Yeah.
And then Shifty Power shot the sniper, and the sniper, he's actually not in the church. He's on in a barn right next to it, kind of like across the street. And you can still see the bullet holes and stuff. And then as I was driving through, I discovered a German war cemetery, the Recon E one. I didn't know it was there. I should have known. Would have had a lot. I did some research afterwards, and I was like, man, there's so many stories I could have covered there.
Yeah.
But I was just because I only had like 3 days. So I was in Luxembourg for one day, and then that evening, I did the two cemeteries, the American and the German one. Drove then that evening to Bastogne. Went to the Le Nuts bar in Bastogne, which is really cool bar. Got a lot of memorabilia from the from veterans and stuff. And the guy, he personally knew that Vincent Sprazza. He's the guy who did the beer run thing. You should check out that store if you know it. Yeah, so he's got a bunch of stuff there. Had too many beers with him. Next morning, woke up, went to one of the best museums I've been to is the 101st Airborne one in Bastogne. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. So went there and kind of got over my hangover while filming some stuff in there. Yeah, and that's when I went directly out to the foxholes, and then I discovered, hey, that I need to get the ticket. I knew it. I looked it up previously, so thankfully I didn't have that issue. But some other people, when I was there, they tried to buy the ticket there, and they couldn't. I don't think you can buy it online. Maybe you can. Yeah. So then that day I filmed the foxhole stuff, and then I had to drive back to Luxembourg the next morning to catch a flight out of there. Or actually in the afternoon. So in the morning, I went back to the foxholes, but I went across the street and did the whole German perspective video. And I walked a little bit where the German lines would have been, which is really interesting. I mean, there's not really much to see. Obviously, it's just woods, but it's kind of crazy to stand where, if I was there 80 plus years ago, I probably would have been shot.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's because I'm jealous of you two because I've never been to Belgium. It's on the list. But I got the sense of going to Normandy, even though, like you say, it's just a wood, the beaches are just a beach. But when you're when you're people like us and you know what happened there, would you agree that you kind of get a sense? There's a
Oh yeah.
feeling, like a palpable feeling that this place is important, and even though there's nothing there, it's I don't think many people would understand that, but I guess you guys do.
For sure. Though I have to say, like, when you're like trying to film content, I think you're a little bit focused on that. But even then, when you're like first stepping into the area, you just take it all in. That's what I try to do. Like whenever I go like specifically for filming something, like I'll make like a cemetery thing. I'll make sure to like before I do anything, like I just observe the area I'm around. So like when I was sitting, where they're standing in the area where the foxholes were, it was like I was luckily at that point I was alone. Shortly after a big tour group came with, but like for those moments where I was alone, it was definitely a moment. Then I went there again because I drove around the towns like Noville and so just to get a grasp of like the area. And it was dark by then. It was only like 6 p.m., but it was dark. So I went back to the parking lot where the Bojac was, got out and turned the car off and just stood there, and it was complete darkness. And like I tried to just, picture and feel like how it felt. It's and like in April, I'm going to the Netherlands for the first. Well, I've been to the Netherlands before, but this is the first time I'm going to see the market garden sites. Sanders doing a tour with his like history tour group thing, Trails of History. Where I'm going on that tour with him. And before that, I'm going a couple days earlier because I'm going to go to the Jethelstein cemetery, the big German one, because that's where my grandma's brother is buried.
Oh wow!
So I'm going to do a whole video focused on him.
Nice.
And it's been a lot of research in the making, so that one's going to be pretty important. And I'm in contact with some people who they're not historians, but they're like history nerds from that area. And they've been very helpful. Like they've been able to like show me his like burial record in Dutch and translate it for me. And that was how I got his unit and all that. And it was because of that information I was able to like contact the archives more directly and be like, hey, tell me everything you know about this. And through that, I was actually able to find out the battle he fell in, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to also go to the Commonwealth Cemetery, I think in Overloon.
Yeah.
I'm excited for that. Also the American one, I believe. And then in March, it's still in planning, I might be going to France to see some cemeteries there as well. And then again, for sure, in Verdun in June.
Nice.
That's for sure happening. Just really back quick on the Commonwealth Cemetery. I thought it was really interesting because like in Durnbach, like I always thought that like, I know for the British Army, like they didn't ever want British soldiers to be buried on enemy territory. I think that's the same with the Americans. But it was interesting to see an entire British cemetery of airmen, and there's also some American service members there who are listed as Americans. Because you have like 25 or 26 members buried there who are Canadian, not Canadians, but they're Americans who joined the Canadian Air Force before the war started. But there's actual ones who have the U.S. like Air Force marking on there, or Army Air Force at the time. Is that true? What I'm saying though, like they don't want British Army to be buried on enemy territory, or
not that I know, but it kind of
help me
tracks
out here, Katie.
Not sure, to be honest.
It kind of tracks with like British like stoicism, right? And like you can imagine Bernard Montgomery saying something like that, or no, we've got to capture the ground first, and now it's our territory, and because our attitudes are very very different to you guys, the Americans and the Canadians and the French and stuff. But that'd be interesting to look up actually. But yeah.
I just don't quote me on that. It's just
No.
That's what the groundskeeper told me when he was showing me around Durnbach. I think he said that's what's unique because the Air Force was okay with it, but the Army wasn't. And that's why there's no there's only one Army personnel there. I don't know. Durnbach's weird because you'll have like a bunch of Air Force, but you also have Royal Navy. You have Americans. You have a French. You have one French guy, which is weird because not weird, but it's like you have the Commonwealth stones, and then you just have the French cross. And apparently they were POWs being transferred back, and they hit a landmine, I think, right before or right after the war ended. There's also a bunch of Indian POWs there. There's one Russian, Austrian as well. There was some kind of special force mission called Operation Whiskey that went sour. I talked a little bit about it. I think it's something, I don't know. They think maybe it was a plan to kill Hitler or something, because whatever was in the briefcase got rushed to the Berlin right away. But I don't know. These are just the stories he was telling me, and it was crazy because I walked in there and then I saw him and I told him what I was doing and I asked him if it's okay. He's like, "Yeah, come with. I'll show you." And just started pointing at each of this rows, like, these guys, they did this, they did this. This is the youngest pilot to die or first casualty, shot down over Munich trying to dropping like propaganda leaflets. Then like he showed me the brigadier general who I think he fell near Calais trying to buy the Allied retreat time for Dunkirk. Just so much information where I was like overwhelmed. I was like,
yeah, you gotta try to write it down. Like, hold on, no, let's still do for a video. Give me a second.
Yeah, because I had like my 4 people I was covering, and then all of a sudden it went like boom, and I was like really trying to. And I was still new at this at the point, so you know how it is. The first few times you're stuttering over your words, you stop the recording, you redo it.
Yeah.
By the way, Kitty, you have to send me your channel. I don't think I've seen yours before.
Yes, will do. War Footprints.
Text it to me afterwards, yeah.
Yeah, will do.
Or Josh, send me the link.
Yeah, I will.
And that means all you viewers check out the link too.
Yes, yeah.
The first subscriber wins a new TV from Josh. You heard it here first.
Oh, well, no. Hey, I'm an NHS worker. We don't get paid that much.
Hey man, you gotta engage the viewer engagement here, you know?
Yeah, true. Yeah, you gotta grab them, haven't you? Yeah.
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 I just thought of something. So behind me, you obviously noticed the U.S. flag, but it's not the normal one. That's another really interesting like entrance point for me of history was the American Revolution.
Okay, yeah.
And that's the Betsy Ross flag. It was never an official one, but it is associated a lot with the American Revolution. I don't know. I just always thought that was fascinating. Because like I'm from Arizona originally, so we're kind of far away from where the American Revolution happened, obviously. Though there was one U.S. Civil War battle that happened in Arizona. Very, very small skirmish, but it counts. Arizona is actually interesting because the Confederates claimed it, the Union claimed it, and they had a cavalry battle where like 12 people fought it. No, but like, so when I was stationed then in the Marines, I was in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. And that was the first time I actually got out to see like some of the revolutionary sites like Yorktown and stuff like that. And I don't know, that was also fascinating for me. The American Revolution is something I want to learn more about. I just think it was an interesting concept because like it's the first example of how, from successfully breaking away from the British Empire at the time. I know for you guys, maybe like you guys don't learn about it in school as much as we do.
No, I never touched it in school.
No.
We do is like Victorian era, Henry VIII, and then a bit of the World Wars.
What is covered about the American Revolution or the War of 1812 at all? Or
Nothing.
No. Genuinely nothing. Yeah.
That didn't happen. Yeah, because
we didn't lose. We didn't get kicked out. We win everything. Royal Navy and all that. All that stuff.
I mean, because for us, it's like such a massive topic, and it's fascinating because like there was even at the end of the war, like had Yorktown failed, the revolution might have failed. It was kind of like because I'm not a revolutionary historian, but it's like I think the Americans had access to the French fleet only for a short time because whoever the French admiral was wanted to go back to the Caribbean. So like Washington had this like he wanted to really attack New York, and his generals talked him out of it, and then he had this small window of opportunity and like close. I don't know. It's fascinating. If you want to learn about it, what's his name? Ken Burns. He just came out with a whole new thing about it. It was really detailed. I don't know if you know Ken Burns. Do you?
No.
He made a really good documentary about the Civil War, Vietnam, a couple other things. I think rock and roll music as well.
Yeah.
You've never heard of Ken?
No, genuine. But I mean,
you haven't heard of Dan Carlin. You haven't heard of Ken Burns, bro. gotta get you some material.
History is one of those subjects where it's a rabbit hole, isn't it? Like, you think you're interested in one subject or like one portion of it, and then you open the door to something else, and it can just go off from there. But I guess that's why we love it, because it's a bottomless pit. Is history for sure.
It is, and especially if you learn it from the perspective of different people, like it isn't always great, like black and white on paper, like this and this happened. Like, for example, that argument I meant earlier from college, from the German point of view, you could say the Second World War was a continuation of the first. Like, there's just perspectives, and when you get different perspectives, you can view it through different lenses. I'm not saying it was a continuation. Obviously, it's not. We know that.
No.
but I mean, just like if you're looking from somebody, because the one thing you can't do, in my opinion, is take a modern lens and look at history and then judge it by modern standards. If you do that, you lose the impact of what it was and how people felt back then. And if you take it from their lens and try to understand it from their perspective, I think you really get the idea of what was really happening. I think
absolutely. Yeah, I think that's absolutely perfect. Yeah, that's a perfect way to put it. Yeah, you've got to remember, what people's lives were like before the war, the conditions and stuff like that. You can't be like, well,
Absolutely.
They didn't know that. Why didn't they just look on Google Maps? They could have sent that there, and they could have got directions to outflank the Germans.
Yeah, they should have just gone on X and see that the Germans were building their entire army outside the Ardennes.
Yeah.
How dare they? Anyway, so heading towards the direction of wrapping up, I wanted to ask you, so what are you reading now?
What am I reading? I'm reading Al Murray's book called Command. I think it was his second history book that he wrote. And it's about how the Allies learned to win the war, and it's kind of covering the main like British commanders. And I think there's some Americans in there as well. Like each chapter is a different one. So the first one's been on Montgomery. And yeah, that's super interesting.
Nice. What about you, Katie?
I'm reading The Nazi and the Psychiatrist, which is the book the new film Nuremberg is based on.
Oh yeah. Is it still possible to get Kelly's original book?
No, I tried to look for it because I really wanted to read it.
That is such a good movie.
It didn't do very well because of his point of view in the book. So it did like 1 or 2 prints, and then that was it. So yeah, they're very scarce.
I think if he released it in a modern audience, it probably would have done very well. But post-war America, I think he had some anti-American sentiment in there as well, or something about that, or I don't remember. But it didn't fit very well.
Yeah, his view is basically that evil can come from anywhere. It's like it could be next door, down the road, in the next state, in the next country, and 18 months after the end of the Second World War, that's not what the world wanted to hear.
I guess I'll answer my own question as well. So I'm actually reading those 2 books right there. One of them is The Faithful Executioner, which is fascinating because it's about the execution of Nuremberg and I think it's late 1500s, early 1600s, or maybe, I don't know, around that time period, Holy Roman Empire in Nuremberg. And it's just so fascinating because this guy's literate and he writes about almost every execution he made in his career from the beginning to the end. And as he gets older, it gets more detailed. And we just don't have that because he doesn't really add moral things like I felt bad about doing this, but he talks about it. And it gets, like I said, it gets in more detail as he gets older. And the author who took that, it's interesting because there was a translated version that really didn't add any context, so you couldn't do anything with it. And he actually went back to the archives and found an original copy from 16 something and was able to find more emotions in there. And it was just written differently. Anyway, it's a fascinating book. And Nuremberg's not that far away from me, so it's kind of interesting. They're talking about certain areas, and about that place, and you're okay, crazy. If you're into that kind of history, so medieval era, definitely worth checking out. And the other one I'm reading is With the Old Breed by Eugene Sledge, because I felt like I need to learn more about the Pacific again. It's been a while since I
Yeah.
covered it, so I just felt like picking it up and reading it again. Also, fantastic book if you haven't checked
It's
that
on
out.
my list. It's definitely on my list. Yeah, I've got a copy again, but you know what it's like with history books, and I like to try and absorb the information and remember it, and I'm a bit of a slow reader, but yeah, I'll get there. I'll get there.
So am I, but it's about enjoying the book, not
Yeah.
how many pages you can read. One thing
Yeah.
that I'm criminally under knowledgeable about is the British and Australian aspects in the Pacific.
Yeah.
Because as an American plus being in the Marine Corps, you learn a lot about the contribution of the Marine Corps in the Pacific, but a lot of that isn't really learning about, the British aspect or the Australian aspect from it. So I don't know if you guys can recommend any books or anything about that or series, or that would be great.
I know James Holland's done a book on Burma. So
Yeah.
that might be a good place to start.
Okay.
Yeah. James Holland is his books are so detailed, and like it's just amazing, like the level of detail he goes into. And yeah, Burma, I mean, for me, like, yeah, Burma's one of those that I really don't know much about, because again, obviously all the focus is on Normandy and North Africa, and but there's, like I said before, it's a bottomless pit, and there is plenty more for us to dive into for sure.
I forget what battleships it was. I think it was the Prince of Wales or something. That two battlefields got sunk by Japanese kamikazes, I believe, or just planes in general. That kind of brought the end of the battleship there, because there's these two like brand new battleships that were sunk by a single plane.
That sounds
And I
about
think
right. That sounds
it
about
was
right
it
for
was
us.
pretty early in the war. I wish I knew. Maybe it was Prince George or something. I don't know. Sorry, but it's been a while. But I know there's these brand new amazing British battleships that were sunk, and it was kind of like where everyone's like, okay, if a plane that can be produced and like pretty cheaply can sink a battleship that fast, we have a problem.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah,
Which
pretty
is kind of
much.
interesting now, because like we see the aspects in Ukraine, and like also with Iran and stuff, the importance of like drones. Um, is like drones going to bring the end of tanks, or the end of aircraft carriers?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's kind of interesting to see the shift of history and military, like what directions we're heading to now.
yeah, absolutely, man. Well, it sounds like you've got loads coming up. Plenty of places that you're planning on visiting and doing videos. So I look forward to seeing them. And I hope people who listen to podcasts will jump on your channel as well, because like I said before, the videos are amazing. Super underrated. So yeah, check Ben out on Walking for History. On YouTube. And yeah, just wanted to say thanks again for coming on and joining us.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me, and hopefully one day we can do a collaboration and a video together someday.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, man. That'd be awesome.
It would be. All right, you guys take care.
Yeah,
Yes,
you
you
too,
too,
buddy.
mate. Thank you.
All right.